AMD. AMD. This is a stock that, honestly, I bought so many shares of, I wasn't really planning on buying more of this stock. But the more I've looked at AMD, by the way, got the new 2026 Private Stock Group membership cards. I still got in the plastic. I just received them yesterday. It's very, very exciting. When it comes to AMD, I was re-looking over my numbers and I'm like, gosh, this stock is still a huge buy. Like, yeah, I'm up big on my shares. Yeah, the stock's gone up so much from where it was back in April of 2025 when the stock bottomed down in the 80s, right? But at the end of the day, there's still a lot of money to be made in AMD. And I'm like, I got to buy some more shares of this stock. So the thing you got to understand about AMD is they have three core businesses. One is their data center segment. Now, this is the most important business for the company overall. And on a revenue basis and for what's going to be revenue in the future years, as well as our operating income, okay? This is going to be the big dog. It already is bigger than the other businesses, but this is like going to be the big dog in future years. Keep that in mind. The most important product in the company's history is the MI450. This is a chip that it seems like every big tech company wants. And so this is going to be a huge product for the company. It's the biggest product. Like I said, I posted this on X. If you ever want to follow me on X, I was linked in the description area of all my videos. I said on X, this is the biggest product in the history of AMD by a mile. And so the revenue story starts to get very exciting. The margin story and the profitability story starts to get really exciting in the second half of 2026. Now you might say, well, maybe what if you waited to buy the stock until the product launches? You could do that, but the issue is, this is just my guess, there's going to be a lot of hype and excitement about AMD over the next 6 months. AMD is likely going to show off even future products as well in the next 6 months that are going to get people very excited about what's going to happen for 2027's revenue, and might even show off some 500 series related products. So, and other products as well. So keep in mind, like, there's probably going to be a hype cycle in AMD over the next 6 months in regards to new products they show off. And there's going to be so much excitement about MI450 going into production and what that's going to mean for revenue for the company. So do keep that in mind, okay? Now, as far as client and gaming segment, this is a big side of their business. They basically have two categories inside this segment now. One is their gaming business and one is their client business. Gaming, keep in mind, when it comes to gaming, it's not just about like computer gaming or desktop or something like that. They have big relationship with Sony, big PlayStation, big relationship with Microsoft and Xbox as well. And then they have their client business. Both those businesses grew very nice in the last quarter. Revenue was actually up 73% overall. And if you've ever heard their Ryzen line, that's that segment as well. So do keep that in mind. And then they have their embedded segment. This is a much smaller business, much less important, but it is a business that, if you think about AMD long term, this could become a much more important side of their business. This is where they're embedding chips into other products out there. And this business was down about 8% year over year, but this business is likely going to flip to growth again, in my opinion, in 26 and in future years. So that's a kind of a sleepy business right now, but don't sleep on it long term. That could be a much more exciting story. Now, Lisa Su, the CEO of this company, you always remember these companies are being led by humans, right? And the CEO is very important. Lisa Su, the CEO of this company, shortly after she took over this company, was a $2 chuck. A lot of people thought this company was for dead. A lot of people thought this company was going under. They were going bankrupt. I think it even went down to $1.91 shortly after she took it over. So keep in mind, this company was done. Dunsky. She brought them back into, what is this company today? A $350 billion company. One of the most important companies in the world. A company that has a potential to be a $1 trillion market cap in the 2020s. If they really execute and knock out of the ballpark on the 450 series as far as getting that into production and, strong sell-through and all those sort of things, and then the 500 series comes and that's a banger, as well as getting the embedded segment back to nice growth. I mean, there's a potential this company could end up being a $1 trillion plus company in the 2020s. We're not talking in the 2030s. And so it's incredible what she's done with this business and how she's positioned it, right? Now, as far as my projections for the stock and why the stock is still a buy and why I still have to buy some more shares of the stock, look at my bull case for AMD. I have them doing 40% revenue growth on average per year for the next 4 years, essentially. Now, keep in mind, Lisa Su's talked about 35% growth rate. So I have them in my bull case doing a little bit better than what she has. She does typically sandbag, so do keep that in mind. Then do 50% net income growth on average as well. Gets the company 19% net margins. There's very much a possibility those net margins could push easily into the low to mid 20s by 2029, given that their margins are expected to take quite big ramps up as the data center business becomes a bigger component. In this sort of scenario, I would have the stock getting to the $800 to $1,100 range, which gives me a compound annual growth rate of 40 to 50+%. Pretty exciting. My base case, just a fancy way of saying what I actually expect for this company, 35% revenue growth on average, kind of, basically Lisa Sue's number there. 45% net income average. Once again, only gets to net income margin of 19%. We're not talking high numbers here. I'm probably sandbagging my own numbers. I'm going to be honest with you guys. In this sort of scenario, you got those sorts of growth rates, 50 to 60 P is fair. You're going to be a 672 stock price to maybe 800. It gives me a compound annual growth rate well into the 30s. So my situation in regards to AMD is I have over $1 million invested in the stock across my accounts. The public account alone has $550,000 invested, right? Up $265,000, up 92%. Over $1 million invested across my portfolios. I got to buy more shares. There's still a lot more upside in AMD for the next several years. When would I cash AMD? I would consider starting to cash AMD and starting to take profits when the stock goes over 500. So let's say there's a major hype cycle in AMD this year. People start getting, flipping their flapjacks over this one. Maybe I start, and it goes to 500 plus. Maybe I start to cash a little shares here and there. But the moral of the story is this stock has a potential, like serious potential, to go to a $500 to $1,000 stock over the next few years. And so, yeah, it's gone up a lot. Yeah, I'm up a lot. But at the end of the day, it's irrelevant. It's about where the stock is going likely over the coming years. And I can see a scenario where the stock over the next few years gets to $500 to $1,000 a share, right? If that happens, that means there's significant upside here in AMD. And so I have to buy some more dang shares of the stock. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching that clip. I hope you really enjoyed it. What I'm showing you in front of your face right now is 1000xstocks.com. This is such an important website and service to use if you want to research companies, if you want to understand companies on a high level, so you can hopefully get better results in the market. And we know as the years tick on, money compounds. It is so important you research companies, you compare companies, you're listening to conference calls, looking at SEC filings. All that's included into 1000xstocks.com. So to enjoy 1000xstocks.com and to apply for that service, you can go to the description area of this video, or you can go to 1000xstocks.com, whichever you prefer. Alrighty, so what stocks am I thinking about selling 100% of, or at least part of, in 2026? Okay, here we go. First off, TSLZ, that will be sold in 2026 at some point in time. I do not know if it's going to be the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter, but it will be sold. My guess is at some point in the first half of 2026, I'll get out of that hedge. That's not really something I want to carry into 2027, just to be honest. Hedges are usually more short-term protection in general for the portfolio. And so at some point in time, I will sell out of that Tesla hedge there. CRM. CRM is an interesting one. If that one went on a huge run in 26, I could potentially sell it in the public account. I don't think I would sell all my shares in general. It's just I haven't gotten to build CRM into the position sizing I want to really build it into. So I don't know. Like let's just say hypothetically, people start becoming confident in Agentforce and what they're doing there, and the stock just starts to go on a run, right? And let's say a lot of these software stocks that have been laggers for the last several years, let's say they really catch a bid in 26 and move huge. I mean, maybe I end up cashing Salesforce. Like, let's say hypothetically it moved to 375, 400 next year. I mean, that would be tempting to maybe just cash and move on from it. But that would also depend on if I had other opportunities at that particular time. If I didn't have new opportunities to invest into, then I would probably just keep it in CRM, right? So that's a lot what it comes down to. If I find some other great deals, then there we go. Fubo, I don't see a very high probability of selling that one next year, just to be honest. I think it could be a great year for the stock overall, but I just don't see moving out of that one next year. And I doubt they get sold to anybody. So American Express, if anything, I want to continue to build that into a big position that I hold for years to go in the future. So highly unlikely I would get out of AXP. Revolve, there's always a potential, but I really like what Revolve's doing with their business model, like the income statement, balance sheet. I mean, I like Revolve a lot, so I doubt I would move out of it. Honest is a potential if if they sold next year. I think it's a potential, and this is something no one else is going to talk about in regards to Honest. There's a potential they sell the company next year. Why? Why would I think that? One, the thing with Honest is they can keep going at it alone, and they might be a $5, $10, maybe $15 stock, right? Is Honest ever going to become a giant company? Probably not. That doesn't mean there can't be a lot of money made on the stock. Like, do the math. Like, if it goes to $5, $10, something like that, even $15, like, my gosh, you make a lot of money on the stock. But that being said, are they ever going to become Procter & Gamble or Johnson & Johnson or somebody? Probably not. So Carla could, and I'm kind of watching what she's doing with the company. She's streamlined it very well. She's got the balance sheet strong now at this point in time. They've got flipped over to profitability. She's focusing the business on taking the margins up. So she is positioning, if they want to keep going at it alone, that they could be in a great position for the next few years. But she's also positioned the company that if they got somebody to come in and put a big bid on the company, they could potentially sell out to a bigger company and to kind of make it as a tuck-in acquisition, right? They could also sell to like a private equity company. I don't think it makes a lot of sense to sell to private equity because they're not going to be able to magically, like private equity usually likes to buy a company that maybe they can strip a bunch of cost out of the business. I don't think you're going to really be able to do that with Honest. And so Honest makes the most sense if it was to sell, it sells to a big company that is in the sorts of product categories they're in, right? So I don't know. We'll see what happens there. It's always a potential. They could sell to a private company that maybe is a competitor of theirs, or they could sell to a public company like a Kimberly-Clark, Procter & Gamble, somebody like that, right? So always a potential. We'll see what happens there. But if the announcement did come out that they're selling, obviously I would sell my shares. I usually don't hold all the way until the sale goes through just because there's risk involved in that, right? Elf on a shelf. I can't see myself selling Elf next year. I just can't. That's one I like to hold for years to go in the future. Adobe, not a very high probability unless I became unconfident in their business model or something like that. But Adobe, I feel pretty confident in. PayPal, unlikely I sell that stock as well. I mean, it's just so dirt cheap that I'm just like, why would I want to sell PayPal? Right? Google McDougal, this is my surprise some people. There's a potential I could sell Google next year. If Google went on a big run, right? Let's say we watch Google go 375, we watch Google go 400 plus next year, right? And it's obviously showed a lot of momentum last 6 months. Let's say that continues through. There's a potential I could cash out of Google. I don't feel as strong about Google long term as I do somebody like Meta, for instance. Meta is one that is just like, man, I love that company for the long term. Google, I definitely like a lot for the long term. I think I could feel comfortable in it. But if it went on another big run to 375, 425, something like that, I just feel like there would be limited upside there. Obviously, there's a robo-taxi opportunity with what they're doing with Waymo. That certainly has potential, but that's not as, everybody's way too hyped about that potential. That's like long term, if, Tesla, Google, how much actual profit will they make a long term from that sort of business? I've ran estimates, and long term, they'll probably, these companies that will be big players in the market, probably between $10 and $30 billion a year in profit. That's not as much as people think. People think it's some crazy opportunity. Like basically you throw a 20 PE on that. Okay, so you're about $200 billion in market cap on the low end there, and you're about, we can call 60 billion on the high end, right? Or 600 billion, 200 billion to 600 billion of market cap. People think this is some multi-trillion dollar, it's just not. It's going to be very costly to run these cars and these fleets and problems and maintenance and keeping them clean and all that stuff. And so that's going to run up the cost, and that's just something people aren't even factoring in for, right? Accidents, insurance, all that sort of stuff. So management, I mean, there's a lot that goes in with it, right? Customer service problems, lawsuits, there's a million different things that go on with this. So the moral of the story is here, that business will not be nearly as profitable as people think. It's going to be a good business long term. It's going to be a bad business short term, meaning for the rest of the 2020, it's going to suck. But 2030s and on, as long as you make it through the initial, first few years here of scaling, then, long term would be good, but it's not nearly as good as people think it's going to be. And so just something to keep in mind there. Google search remains in a strong place. Obviously, people are starting to use LLMs more, but Google Gemini is pretty well positioned in the marketplace. YouTube is, really doesn't have a direct competitor in regards to long form content, so that's a good thing for them. And so YouTube stays in a good place. Android won't be disrupted until the smartphone's disrupted. And I don't know when that is. Maybe it's in the 2030s or maybe it's in the 2040s. At some point in time, smartphones will be disrupted, and then that'll be a big risk for Google, as it will be with Apple. But that's not exactly right now. Right? But moral of the story is, if Google made a big run next year, maybe I cash. But once again, do I have something else to put the money into? If I don't have something to put the money into, then I'll probably just hold Google, right? SoFi, can't really see me selling out of SoFi unless it made such a historic run that it got up to a valuation where I was just like, this is silly. Then maybe I would sell SoFi, or at least a portion of SoFi shares, right? And take it down to maybe 1,000 shares like I took Palantir down to. Because remember, I used to hold 5,555 shares of Palantir, took that down to 1,000 shares now, right? Celsius, can't see myself selling that one. That's a long-term hold. Cake, can't see myself selling that one. That's a long-term hold. Palantirs, I really want to hold that 1,000 shares, right? EL Estee Lauder, say it louder for the people in the back. I can't see myself selling that one either. I love those sorts of business models that are almost like subscription-type business models, right? People just buy the product again and again and again and again and again. Yeah, very unlikely. Amazon, Amazing Zon. Nope, that's another one. I want to hold that one all the way into the 2030s. AMD, okay. AMD goes 500 plus next year. I wouldn't sell it all, but I would sell some, no doubt. AMD went 500 plus next year. I would sell some. That would be like, how would you even get to that sort of place? You would have to have a major hype cycle in AMD stock. How does that happen? The numbers for 450 got to be crazy. Then they have to show off their next generation chip. That will be more of a 2027 product. Maybe in the back half of 2027 it comes out. And that has to knock everybody's socks off. And like everybody needs and wants that chip. We get that. Don't think it's not possible. Now, am I going to play any short-term call options on AMD or something like that? No, not my game. I got plenty of shares. If AMD goes to 500 next year, I'll be a very happy camper. Between what I have in the public account, I have over $1 million in AMD. Somewhere between $1 and $1.5 million in AMD between all my different portfolios. So, goes 500 next year, I'll be a very happy camper. But that was really the only scenario I probably see myself cashing any AMD shares. You have to have a major hype cycle next year in AMD. And then I would say, okay, I can get 500, something over 500, I would cash some shares. I couldn't see myself selling out of 100% of AMD. 600? If it went 600 plus next year, okay, maybe I cash everything. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know under any circumstance that I cash everything though. Thinking about it now, I think I would still hold some. Maybe another situation where I hold like 1,000 shares or something like that. Meta, can't see myself selling Meta. No. I know it's such a big weighting in the portfolio. That's not really the only bad thing you can say about it. Balance sheet's amazing. Income statement's amazing. Growth rates are amazing. They keep spending on the future. If they cut that spending, they could do massive share buybacks, help out their earnings per share. There's just a lot of things at play. You got Zuckerberg, who's still very focused on leading that company. So he's not afraid to risk things, try things, which could be seen as a negative from the perspective of like, oh, they waste a lot of money. Like, look at all what they wasted on the metaverse, right? That game's still playing out. We'll see what happens there. But I like a CEO that is confident to make some bold decisions, and that's Meta. And that's also the reason they're growing at, 26% last quarter, 25%? Who else is in big tech's growing like that? NVIDIA? And no one else. They're outgrowing everybody by a mile. And it's because Zuckerberg's willingness to try things, hey, we're going to try this, we're going to do this, we're going to spend on this, we're going to hire these employees, and, sometimes it's going to work, and sometimes it's not going to work. And that's fine. That's the cost of doing business. Just as investing in companies, sometimes you're going to get it right, sometimes you're going to get it wrong. So, the cost of doing business. You just got to get it right more often than get it wrong, right?